coming up on the Lead Ministry Podcast.
These are definitely the people that make the ministry happen in our ministries. We're always looking for these people. And yet I feel like there's kind of a miss in how we're connecting with them as leaders and understanding them. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today, is just how we can train these people.
Now your host, Josh Denhart.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Lead Ministry Podcast. Now, of course, as you know, this month we're talking about how to train your volunteers, how to equip them, how to coach them, how to get them to do things that you need them to do in a way that's in keeping with their gifting, but also is hopefully pushing them to be a better version of themselves. So we're grateful for this month. My name is Josh Denhart, and my goal, of course, is to help you, the busy ministry leader, to have some ridiculously practical resources to make ministry easier. I don't know about you, but when I first started out, I inherited a very beat up, disheveled, and discombobulated ministry. And it took its toll on me. It took its toll on my family. And I don't want anybody else to have to go through that. So that's why I do what I do, to help you out. Each month, we're doing kind of a deep dive and saturating you with content. The previous month, it was retain volunteers. This month, it's train volunteers. And so that's where we're headed. Thank you to all of you who attended the webinar in this great month of October. But I'm grateful. Today, we got our friend, Miss Christen Clark. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. So great to see you. It's always fun to see you out and about on all of the socials, but also it's fun to run into you at conferences. That's kind of where we've become friends and we get to see each other. And so I love all the things that you're doing. What are you up to these days? Recently, somebody asked me, Josh, why do you do what you do? And I answered quickly. It was a top of head response. And my response was the following: I don't want anybody else in ministry to have to go through that which I went through. I got a bunch of extra gray hairs. My family got a little bit neglected when I first started in ministry. And I think that my spouse began to resent the ministry just a little more than she needed to. Now, why is that? Well, it's because I was on my own. I was seeking to understand and create processes and systems all by myself. Well, after I went through all of that hardship, I took all of the knowledge and I compartmentalized it into a whole bunch of wonderful courses and learnings and teachings. And I've now put that all under one kind of hood or one engine called leadministry.com. We have 4 different levels of membership, from free all the way to a personal coach helping you. We've got 12 full-length courses, and each month we have a dedicated topic that we're seeking to dive deep, because we don't want you to experience burnout, and I don't want you to experience that which I experienced. Join leadministry.com today.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm having a blast just hanging out with my crazy family. I've got 2 in middle school.
Oh
so
my.
That makes my life very busy. I'm driving a lot. But I'm still doing the Collide Kids podcast that I started years ago, that you and I connected on. You were on my show, which was so fun.
Yes.
And I'm working on writing some curriculum and writing a book. And I've just recently launched a new podcast for parents. It's called 7-Minute Devotional for Busy Parents. So just a resource for families to listen to in the car, or for parents just to have that moment with God, to take a few minutes to start their day or to center themselves and focus on God's word. So I'm excited about that. It's been so fun. And I love connecting with parents that way. That's
good. And so then when we get ready to release this particular podcast, we'll put that into the show notes so people can check that out. And you're like, I have a podcast. It's a lot of work, but you're going to put out 2 episodes a week. Is that what I hear?
Yes, I am. It's, well, 1, I have a really great editor, but 2, I think it's something that I really enjoyed doing. I love connecting with parents, and I am a parent. And so I can relate. And I love teaching. And so it's just something that's been on my heart for a while. And so that's when the Lord, puts his energy into it. So yeah, it's a lot.
That's good. And you're a good fit for stuff like that. And I really have appreciated over the years just watching kind of your energy and your excitement. All of that is very, very contagious. So we're grateful that you're here. And today we're talking, of course, about training volunteers. And you have a wonderful topic. And I'll tell you, before we jump into this, I think that it's needed. I think what you're getting, this is super practical. This is super like ground level. And I think people are really, really going to appreciate this. So this is what you call empowering, quote, crowd control volunteers. This is a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, these are definitely the people that make the ministry happen in our ministries. We're always looking for these people. And yet I feel like there's kind of a miss in how we're connecting with them as leaders and understanding them. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today, is just how we can train these people. They're the front lines. And so we really need to make sure that they are ready to do the job that we need them to do.
That's exactly right. And it can come as children's ministry volunteers, it can come as junior high volunteers, it can come as high school volunteers. And some of these principles for sure can translate to adult ministry. It's like, yes, we need you to help manage people and manage the crowd. And guess what? What I need you to do, I'm going to contract with you I'm going to hire you, and you're going to call ahead to every one of my chemistry shows. And you're going to say, hey, I want to talk to you about how to make sure that you have some good crowd control volunteers sprinkled throughout. Yeah, I'm kidding, but
let's do it.
Yes. Well, gang, if you've been on the podcast with us for any length of time, we have 3 major buckets that we try to dump into. Let's define it. We're going to define this topic, and then we're going to develop it, take it a little bit deeper, and then it's going to be a call to action. How do you, as the busy ministry leader, actually make this happen? So, what is a crowd control volunteer? Let's define that. Take it away.
So crowd control volunteers they're like the warm bodies. We make that joke, like we just need warm bodies at some of these events or these large group gatherings. We just need someone to stand in a spot. And these can be rotating subs. These can be people that you just pull in for big events. These can be people that are jumping in because they're interested in the ministry and they want to be involved. Unfortunately, these are overlooked when it comes to training. We don't think about how we need to train or help empower and equip these volunteers, but they're so important. And so I think it's a little bit of a stigma that we think they're just a warm body. It doesn't matter. I don't need to invest in them. Right. But really, they are so important to our ministry. And they're not the backup. They are the front line. Yeah,
that's very interesting that you bring this up, because often they are overlooked because it's kind of like, well, who doesn't know how to do that? Oh, yes. And, we're not going to state it on this podcast, but you've heard about what happens when you assume things. And this is one of those really bad assumptions. And here's what's funny. When you don't train somebody to do something actually as important as this, your large group time starts to devolve really quickly. And the large group teacher is like, wow, I put in a lot of heart into this. Here I am doing the amazing chemistry show. I've traveled thousands of miles to come to your church. And here's the funny thing. Tell me if you've experienced this before. You have like the large group teachers in front. Let's pretend it's me. And we have a mess of kids that are truly causing a huge mess. And then we have volunteers and or parents who are kind of on the sidelines, and they're thinking in their mind, quote, someone should do something about this. That's right. It's you.
It's you.
Please, parent, come and help us out.
When I was a kids worship leader, it'd be like in the middle of a song. I mean, I would just be like, can I get an adult to come hang out with these kids down here losing their mind? So we've always, the person up front, it becomes their onus to take control. Okay. When we have all these people standing around totally capable of doing it.
That's exactly right. And we're literally dying on the vine. Okay. Now I'm sorry. I did not plan to talk about this, but it was, I think maybe 4, 5, 6 chemistry shows ago. I was on this big, huge run all around Texas and a couple of other states. And there was this kid, and he was absolutely a live wire. And there was 500, 600 people there. It was a pretty large event. And this kid was just shouting out and wanting to have like conversations with me. It was extremely disruptive, and it was getting me off of my game. And so I had a time where I actually went out into the crowd. I had something that I had to do in the crowd, and I turned off my microphone and I came over and I said, hey, buddy. I took control and told him if he'd tone it down, which he did not. And then I turned my mic back on. I'm doing my thing. He's still kind of peppering me. It was like a child heckler. You with me? And so then mid-event, I knew that the person that brought me in, her husband was sitting kind of in the front row adjacent to this kid. And so I literally had to go do something in the crowd. I turned my mic off. I said, would you please neutralize this child for me? Like I'm literally begging for help because it throws you off your game when you're leading worship, doesn't it, Christen?
Absolutely. And it takes away from other people around them. So like that person is distracting. They're taking away from the time.
Yeah.
And if you've got a stacked program where you've got all these things you've got to get done or all these things you have to do or say, it doesn't happen because you're losing your focus, like you just said.
Yeah, well, these are often overlooked, but they are vital because guess what? Please, someone, please make this experience not happen to me again. Okay, well, you say here that the crowd control volunteers, their role is discipleship through presence and engagement. I love this that you actually termed this as they are actually a disciple maker. Help us out.
Yeah, well, for some reason, I think we've lost sight of when kids come to church, they are being discipled how to sit down, how to sit and listen, how to come under authority, how to worship, how to listen to God's word, how to pray. And so all of these things are being taught from the stage. And so we put all of this responsibility on the person on the stage or the person up front leading the class to do all of the discipleship. But really, if you have these crucial crowd control volunteers understand their role is discipleship as well, because they are connecting with the kids. They're learning their names, especially if you're in a large ministry that has 200 or even 100 kids. I mean, you've got to have somebody that knows that person's name and can connect with them because that can't be the people up front that are doing that all the time. So they have to be that presence in those kids' lives, and they have to engage with the kids and with what's happening in the room. And so if they learn that that's their role, I think that's going to be a lot easier for them to do their job.
Yes. And I like the word that you used, presence. And I used to call this proximal control. That just by, just sheer proximity, if you don't even have to say anything, if you as an adult just find yourself to be sitting close to a kid and he's like, oh, I think I'm not supposed to be spazzing out right now. And so just by a volunteer, an adult volunteer being close to that kid, that's going to likely neutralize them. If it doesn't, another mode of presence is a simple hand on a shoulder. You know what I mean? But it's presence. Now you bring up another interesting point, which I think is critical. In ministry, I say this all the time. Everything in ministry is about relationship. And so if you know a kid's first name, if you know their last name, if you know their mom and dad, your presence, automatically, they're going to want to be like, ooh, I don't want to disrespect them. And because you know them and because you know their name and you have at least the beginnings of a relationship, they're going to probably tone it down just because of that.
Absolutely. And kids want that structure and they crave that connection. And you mentioned the hand touch as well. I was thinking about one of my friends who's a physical therapist and talking about kids that are like over-energized or overstimulated. That pressure actually helps them to calm down. So even you putting your hand and pushing just a little, I'm not saying to squeeze, but even just pushing a little, that actually adds a form of energy that helps that person to calm down. So there's so many ways that people can create that connection. But if you're a random person that they don't know and they haven't connected with, it's not going to make as big of an impact. And that's what we want.
Okay, yes. And so I love this idea. It is discipleship. It is through presence, but it's through engagement/relationship. And so that's the other thing, is that we as ministry leaders were like, hey, really what I want. Okay, like if you're not thinking this all the way through, a lot of ministry leaders would be like, you know what I want? I just want quiet and compliant kids so that I can teach my lesson. No, that's not what you want. What you want is a room full of people that truly know one another, adults knowing kids, kids knowing adults, and then it's all going to go better. Now, I have to say, I'm kind of hijacking this, but this does fit. Okay. Now, were you a teacher back in the day? You seem like you were a teacher.
No, but I've been doing kids ministry for a long time.
Okay, well, you would have crushed it as a classroom teacher. I know your personality, you would have been awesome. So here I was as a classroom teacher, and every once in a while the principal would come in and they would either make an announced or an unannounced visit, and they would sit through your classroom and then audit you. And basically it's like quality control. And you're like, oh, I guess I'm on today. You know what I mean? And I remember after the principal had come to my classroom, and then we had this debrief in their office. And it is, listen, I'm confident in what I do. I was a good teacher, and that's fine. But I don't care who you are. It's a little bit intimidating, right? Your boss is there, and they're kind of up on your world a little bit. And so all of a sudden, I was like, oh, okay. Hey, hope this went well. And she said, I imagine that you have no disciplinary issues whatsoever. And I said, well, by and large, no. And she said, the reason that you don't is that your room, everything is so structured and everything is moving right along that there really isn't an opportunity for downtime for somebody to go, wow, let me just blow this up in this boring little middle moment. Let me blow this up. So we as leaders, we can actually do a great job of not having opportunities, but it does come down to relationships. So engagement. Okay. Now you also say they are not backup. They are the front line. You've alluded to this, but I want you to kind of unpack this a little bit more.
Yeah. So I think we've always talked about these volunteers before as backup. Like, okay, it's fine because we'll have so and so. They're backup. They'll be in the room. And it's really there for insurance purposes, right? It's for liability that you have these extra volunteers.
Sure.
But if we think of them if we're thinking about flying on an airplane, let me tell you a funny story.
Okay.
So recently my husband and I went on a really fun trip. He was actually working and I got to tag along. So he had a really fun working trip and I was just there enjoying all the amenities. But
Sure.
We were flying back from this fun trip and he got upgraded because he flies all the time with a first class ticket. And so I got to sit in first class and it was—
Oh my word. So wait, it wasn't just him. It was the both of you.
Yes,
Girl,
exactly.
I have never ridden first class. Tell me everything.
Well, it was my first time. And let me tell you the thing I remember the most. So I am the first row on the aisle. Okay. I mean, I'm the first one off the plane when it's time.
Okay, that's cool.
So I was like, this is amazing. But do you know what I didn't like about it? Is that I was perfectly diagonal to the bathroom. So every time someone opened the bathroom, like leaving the bathroom, they made eye contact with me. So I made eye contact with every single person that went to the bathroom on this flight. So that's what I remember about first class.
First class.
Well, one of the things that was interesting to me was the flight attendants would take the drink cart and they would move it in front of the aisle when the pilots needed to take their turn. Because I knew when every single person went to the bathroom, the pilots also had a turn to do this. And so they would block the aisle so no one could go through. And it's all of that to say, I think that crowd control volunteers are like flight attendants. And if we're thinking of them in that regard, they are the face of the airline. The flight attendants are the ones that are connecting one-on-one with each person in the flight. They're giving them drinks. They're showing them their seats. They're smiling. They're making them feel welcome.
Yes.
They're not flying the plane, but they are the front line. And so if you think of your crowd control people. Now, there might be some other people that are involved that might be more of a flight attendant, but that's how I imagine this is to be. And so if we do think of them that way, I think it helps us change our mentality.
Yes. And by the way, I've never thought of this before because I've never flown first class. But like, in a sense, in a post 9/11 world, not having an in-cockpit bathroom. Okay, like in children's ministry, we have like, ooh, these little preschool rooms, we have a bathroom in there. They don't need to leave this room. They're secure. Well, not having an in-cockpit bathroom is actually a safety thing because that door is completely locked and loaded. It is, nobody gets in the cockpit. So they have to actually leave to go to the bathroom. And so they're putting that cart as a physical barrier because they are looking to serve, in a sense, this person who's flying the plane. In the same way, these crowd control volunteers, they are the face, the smile, all this, but they are seeking to serve you as the worship leader. They're seeking to serve me as the large group teacher. Those are important roles.
Absolutely. And you can't take off. Like if you're in a plane and the flight crew has not arrived, you can't go anywhere. They won't take off if they don't have a full crew. And so you need to think about that as in your ministry as well.
Yeah.
You might have a pilot and a co-pilot and you might have a tech guy, but if you don't have someone that's the front line that's helping people find their seats and all those different things that flight attendants do,
sure,
it's not going to be a good flight.
Okay, so Christen, you're hired once again, because what I'm going to do from now on is with all my chemistry shows, I'm going to be like, oh, I'm sorry, we can't take off yet because you don't have an. Yeah, we gotta have some flight attendants. No, because it really does add or subtract from the quality of the total experience. Not just me as a speaker, not just other volunteers, not just the kids, but the totality of the experience is either hit or missed by these lack of or really equipped volunteers. Okay, now let's take it a little deeper. We talked about a definition of what a crowd control volunteer is and how they are actually humans who are not just warm bodies, but they have relationships with kids. How can we better train these crowd control volunteers? Let's develop it a little bit deeper. Okay, purpose before practice. Talk to us about this.
So one of the ways that we can help these volunteers be better equipped to do their job is to tell them why they're there. And so if you shove them in, if they're standing in the hallway and you grab them and say, I need you to stand here, that's what they're going to do. And if you never continue that conversation, maybe you do need that. Like there are some last minute things where you just need somebody in the room. But if you don't give them that why of why they're in there, they're not going to be good at what they're doing. They're not going to help with engagement and presence. And so really helping them understand you're not a babysitter. I don't need you here for all the, just the fringe stuff. I really need you to understand your role as a disciple maker. And so when we teach them that and we begin that way, I think they're going to be better understanding of their purpose.
I think you're right. And I remember one person who, I've done this at our church, that's fine, but a couple of these moments that you're speaking about remind me of when I'm doing the Amazing Chemistry Show, because I do large events all over the country. And I remember a guy came up to me and he said, hey, I'm the bouncer. And I said, wow, okay, cool. I mean, I knew what that meant, but I said, tell me what that means. And he goes, well, I really have no idea. I was just told to be the bouncer. Well, so he didn't really have an idea, but if somebody were to say to him, Christen, I really like what you're saying. If you're like, hey, listen, here's what we need from you. It's 3 simple things. It is, we need you to use the first and last name of a kid. We need you to possibly come sit close, maybe put a hand on a shoulder and just kind of maybe give a, because we want them to listen and we don't want other people around them to be distracted. So you're not a bouncer because there's probably not going to be a barroom brawl style thing between the 4th and 5th grade boys and girls. Am I right?
Right. Well, and if you give them a title that's from something else, they're going to assume the role of that title. So if you say you're a bouncer, they think they got to throw kids out of the room or they've got to rough somebody up. That's not their job. So don't give them a title that doesn't fit their job description.
That is so funny because what we're doing, this is so profound. I mean, it's like so simple, but so profound. I've never thought about that way because they're reaching back to their previous experiences and their prior knowledge to fill in the gaps that we left them to fill for themselves because we've not told them exactly what this role means.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No,
and we don't want that. We don't want that.
No. I don't want any bouncers. No bouncers, please. Okay. Engagement is contagious. Help us with this. This is great.
So when I was a worship leader, one of the things that I would tell all the leaders in the room during trainings and different things, and even in emails, I would say, remember, you are a worship leader just as much as I am. So if Mr. Tony is standing in the back of the room with his arms crossed while all the kids are dancing and singing to the worship songs, his small group or the kids that look up to him, they're going to do what Mr. Tony does. If there's somebody chit-chatting about their week and they're having a great time and they're elbowing their friend while the kids are listening to the Bible story, well, if she gets to talk during the Bible lesson, why don't I?
Mm-hmm.
And so what these volunteers need to understand is that they need to be engaged with the content and with what's happening in the room just as much as the kids are. So when we're standing up to sing songs, so are you. You got to put your coffee down. You got to put your phone away.
Oh, please.
And I need you to engage with what's happening.
Yes. Put the phone away, right? Put your phone away. Stop having sidebar conversations with another adult, because not only is it distracting to the worship leader, or it's distracting to the person that is teaching, because it is. I mean, tell me, have you ever seen adults just carrying on a hoot and hollering conversation in the back of the room while you're leading worship? That's distracting to you, is it not?
Yeah. And people think their voices are quiet more than they actually are. Like, especially in rooms that are outfitted with acoustic, things like that. Your voice carries, like people can hear you. If you're standing if you're standing in an area where it projects, just physics. Hey, you're science.
Yeah, that's right.
It projects through the room. So you really have to be engaged in proximity with what's happening in the room. And that's going to make such a huge difference. It's contagious. Kids are going to want to do the same thing.
It is contagious. And can I tell you another piece to this contagious thing? Again, I don't know why I'm stuck today on the Amazing Chemistry Show. I usually don't talk about it on this podcast, but like, okay, I'm there to communicate the good news in a super fun and creative way. And I'm telling you the truth. There is an event that I can think of right now who will remain nameless. I can tell you the name of the town. I can tell you the name of the church, because they did not have great acoustics. And all of the adults, and I mean all, were all in this big, huge horseshoe loop around the outside. And it's as if they had been like sequestered and had not had any other adult engagement for like a year. And they were just like, brrr. And yes, I could hear them. I couldn't hear anything distinct because there was like 18 different conversations happening simultaneously. But I was not my best. They were doing me a disservice because I was like, what am I doing wrong that they're not engaged?
Yeah.
And so I was up in my head. And so, you know, their lack of engagement caused me to be less engaged because I was now in my head about why they weren't paying attention. Isn't that weird? So
no, I think it makes sense.
Even as a worship leader or even as a speaker, when I see somebody engaged in what I'm doing, that just feeds me all the more. And so it really is a by and large whole thing. Okay.
And also you mentioned junior high people. I think they get a bad stigma, like teenagers, high schoolers, junior high, for always being on their phones. But I think the adults are usually worse than the kids are. And really when the adults are doing it, the kids are going to do it exponentially.
That's
so
exactly right.
If we want to set a good example as leaders, as adult leaders for these junior high and high school volunteers, we need to be good about putting our phones away and being engaged as well.
And being locked in. And these are expectations that I truly believe an adult who has a heart, who is here to participate, it's not that hard. This is actually stuff that they can understand, Christen, and I think that they can get behind. But if we aren't telling them that, then shame on us, not shame on them.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so now presence makes an impact. Kind of unpack this one for us.
So this is similar to what you were talking about with the proximity control, is where we're helping these leaders to understand that them being closer to the kids is actually going to make a bigger impact than just being in the room. So we don't want them to just be in the room. In fact, when I was working at a church where I was a large group coordinator and the worship leader, I would station the leaders that I had on rotation. I'd be like, you're in this quadrant of the room and you're in this quadrant, instead of come in and jump in where you see it. They knew exactly where to stand. They knew exactly which kids to connect with, because a lot of times kids will sit in similar groups in the same area, just like adults do.
We're creatures of habit, right?
That's right. So giving these adults these leaders the place to go is helpful for them, and helping them to understand, I need you to be engaged with the people that are around you. And they're like, oh, well, I don't want to stand in the front. I don't want to distract. I promise the kids will move. Like if you're really tall and you're right in the middle center, the kids can move over a little bit so they can see. Right. That's not an issue. We need adults to be right where the kids are.
I love this. And I love the idea that you're going so far as to maybe even make like a bird's eye view down over, and you're saying, okay, here are the 6 sections, and you're going to be in section 2, you're going to be in section 4. And so then you're getting coverage.
Yeah.
That's really good. I've never done that before. I like that. But presence makes an impact. Okay, so as this relates, how can you help crowd control volunteers succeed? Now, this is kind of the third and big bucket. We'll close with this. How can we actually do this? Okay, I love this idea that you have here. Crowd control volunteers just ACE it, ACE. You have this nice little acronym.
Yes,
Unpack this one for us. I'm a
seminary student, so I had to have an acronym.
Yes, of course. Very pastoral of you.
Thank you. I'm very proud of it. I have a poem later. I'm just kidding. So ACE it. So this is a great way for you to remember how to communicate and connect with these volunteers and what they need every single time they are on the rotation or every single time they're volunteering. So first, we want to make sure that we are affirming them. So this means we're just letting them know that they matter. We're telling them why you're here. This is so important. This is not just babysitting. This is not just you being in the room. We need you. We are so grateful you're here. And you're affirming that role. I promise you, if you do this with any volunteer, they'll come back and they'll serve with you again.
Okay, so the A,
know why they're there.
Okay, that was going to say, the A is kind of the why.
Yeah.
Okay, the A is the why, and then coach them. C, A-C-E, you're coaching them.
Right. So coaching them just means we are making sure that they understand what they're supposed to do, giving them short reminders. So maybe if you know you're going to be singing these songs, make a point to connect with these volunteers before you let kids in the room or before they show up. Ask them to come early so you can coach them, tell them what's happening for the day. I think sometimes they just show up when time to start. We really need them to be engaged a few minutes before so that you can have eye contact with them and tell them these short reminders of what they need to make sure to do that day.
Yes, completely agree. So you got affirm, A, coach, C, talk to us about E, equip.
So equip them is that's where we're giving them these strategies to help them succeed because we want them to know what they're supposed to do. This is why you're here. Here's some coaching to help you be better at what you're doing. And then we're giving them like, hey, proximity is a great way for you to connect with people. Make sure that you are communicating like in an email, letting them know what's happening. Remind them every time they serve. I would always tell these volunteers, it wasn't just a text like, hey, you're up. It's, you're up. Here's what's going to happen. And don't forget, if you remember kids' names, if you're sitting close to them, make sure you're engaged. And so we're always giving them these strategies so they know what they're supposed to do when they walk in the room.
That's really good. So in a sense, like Peter said in 2 Peter chapter 1, he said, I'm not telling you these things because you don't know them. I'm telling you them because you do know them, and I'm seeking to stir you up by way of reminder. Well, this is really, really good. Let's go back real quick. So you're affirming them. This is the, why. This is why you're doing what you're doing. Am I right? This is the why.
Right.
The coach is kind of the how.
Yeah. And a coach works with the team before the game happens. The coach also works with the team during the game. So if you need to remind them of some things that they need to do or let them know, hey, I love the way that you sat with those kids today. I think you need to do that every week. That was awesome. So you're giving them that positive reinforcement and you're giving them those directions so they know what they're supposed to do the next time they serve.
Yes. And by the way, how funny, as they say, everything I learned about life I learned in kindergarten. Have you ever read that book? It's kind of profound, actually. Do you know that it exists?
True,
do you know that book exists?
I've heard the title, but no, I haven't read it.
Okay, so it's basically like, hey, everybody, look at Johnny. He's sitting the right way. And all the other volunteers are like, what's Johnny doing? I want to do the right thing. Everybody wants to be generally compliant, but if we're not announcing to people what we're looking for, it's going to be a very low likelihood that they're going to devolve. They're going to devolve to their previous preconceived ideas that I'm the bouncer, or they're going to devolve to, well, all I am is a warm body because that's what I was told. Hey, it's really simple. All we need is a warm body. No, that's not it at all. We need you to have presence. We need you to know kids' names. We need you to pay attention, not just for their sake, but who knows whether God could speak to you during this children's ministry or junior high or high school time. This is good stuff.
Absolutely.
Any kind of closing words that you have for us today?
I think it's just one of the things that I've always saw as important in my ministry. And I think there's lots of people that miss out on this and connecting with these volunteers. And I always had really good retention rates with these volunteers because they felt like they had a purpose instead of just being that emergency. We just need you to drop in here. They're probably only going to do it one time. But if you're equipping them and you're connecting with them and giving them that purpose, they're going to come back. And so I think that's what's really important. So I hope the leaders that are listening today will take a chance and think through those leaders that they have that are their crowd control, warm body bouncers, and try to find a way to encourage them and affirm them this week. And I think you're going to see a great retention rate in the long run.
Absolutely. Because bottom line, as we close, nobody wants to just be a warm body. Nobody wants to be just a bouncer. There is a far higher calling. And when somebody can tie into that higher calling, and by the way, you, Christen, or me, Josh, or the leaders that are listening to this podcast, we are the grand dot connectors for these volunteers. We're the ones that are telling them, whoa, you make a huge difference, and here's how you can do that. So you're a winner. You're a good one. I always love talking to you. You're a sharp cookie there, Miss Christen.
Thank you so much. Also, I have a webinar that I taught about crowd control. It goes way more into the planning procedures and how to implement these different volunteers. And so if someone's interested in more information about crowd control, not just those volunteers, but also the planning those services, like we talked about at the beginning, like making sure that you don't have those dips where it's the transition lose the kids or goes off the rails. We don't want that. So if your leaders want any information about that, we can put that link in the show notes.
Absolutely. That's exactly what we want to do. You're a winner. You're awesome. I'm grateful for you. Okay, it's going to be on the recording. Would you be willing to come back? Because you really do a good job.
Awesome. Yes, I'd love to. I love being on the show.
Oh, that's good. Okay, gang. Well, you heard it here. She's coming back. Gang, at the end of the day, we're talking about train this month, and this is super practical, but how good is it? We need to make sure that our people know exactly what they're supposed to do, and not just the behaviors, but how that behavior ties to the kingdom. So this has been the Lead Ministry Podcast, and we are grateful that you're here, and we will catch you guys on the next one.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Lead Ministry Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and visit leadvolunteers.com for more episodes and resources. Thanks for listening.